Jesus is within my boat, and to be able to say to the storms that were happening in that situation, to be able to say, be still to those storms and those waves, and that Jesus is going to take me to the other side, just as he did with the disciples. He took the disciples to the other side of the lake, even though there was a big storm and they were really afraid, and they were afraid that they were going to die. Jesus had always said he was going to take them to the other side. My name's Nick Barton. I'm here in Cardiff. Lived here in Cardiff for about 25 years with my family, my wife Emma, my two kids Elise and Noah, and I'm a physiotherapist. Been here working as a physio for the last 20 plus years or so. Been part of the church in All Nations Church for a long time, and I feel I've got a real great story of what God has done in my life, and I truly want to be able to share what God has done, to be able to inspire others and to be able to share the goodness of God and the faithfulness of God. It goes back a little while. So back in 2017, I had a couple of just what I describe as funny turns. I don't really know what was happening. I went to the GP and said something's not quite right. So he decided to do a brain MRI scan, and that showed what's called an arterial venous malformation, which is basically described as a bird's nest mass of sort of blood vessels in the brain, which then put me at risk of having a brain bleed. I didn't have any symptoms. I was fit and well. But at that point, the doctor said, we recommend you don't actually do anything really strenuous. And so I then put a limit on myself, or I felt the doctors had put a limit on what I could actually do, and I wasn't able to do everything that I felt I was designed to be able to try and do, which was a pretty big blow to what I was, my general sort of lifestyle within that. We sort of fast forward a couple of years to 2019, and I was out walking the dog and felt I didn't really feel anything particularly. I came home and my wife just sort of said that I couldn't smile out of my left side of my face. My left mouth was drooped, and my eye, I couldn't sort of smile, and my eye was sort of drooped as well. And we thought, okay, something's not quite right here. But the first thing I did before we went to the hospital is I went upstairs and got on my knees and I prayed and said, God, this is everything. I believe that you're going to help me through all of this, and that I don't need to worry. Brought back to mind the Psalm 91, that God is my refuge, God is my strength, and I can trust in him. As I arrived in hospital, I then couldn't use my left hand. I couldn't walk properly, and they said they did another brain scan and said you're having a stroke at that time. I was having a brain bleed, and they said, actually, we need to be able to take you urgently up into the high dependency unit, and that's where I was in hospital for a couple of weeks. The doctors had said that it now is quite a serious situation. Previously, they'd said that it was actually back in 2017, 2018, it was impossible for them to be able to operate. The AVM was too big, it was too risky to my life to be able to do any operation. So they decided in 2017, 2018 to be able to treat everything conservatively, but for me to be able to have a limit on my life. Fast forward to 2019, in the hospital, they said, now actually, because you've had a brain bleed and you've had a stroke, actually we now need to consider doing some surgery. It's a high risk of surgery, so they'd said it was actually probably a 10% chance of death after having the surgery, which is huge with surgery. Me and Emma prayed about it, and we recalled the promises of God, that we'd had a real declaration of promise and a prophetic word over our life, that we would both see our children's children as we grow up, and with that then knew that God would bring me through this, and that I would still be living, even though that there's a big chance of things not going right with the surgery. But standing on the promises of God and of what God was able to do, I was able to be more confident going into having surgery. I was in a situation waiting for surgery, knowing I could trust in God, knowing that I could stand on the promises of God. I had the surgery, that within 10 days I was actually discharged from hospital. I was struggling. I was discharged in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I could hardly use my left arm. I could walk sort of 50 meters, but it was just a real struggle. I was really dedicated to it, to say, I know that if I do a little bit each day, I'm going to be able to get a bit better and a bit better. So activating my faith, and with also activating my determination, every day I went to the park, I walked 50 meters to one bench, have a sit down, have a bit of a rest, come back again. I'd then say to Emma the next day, you've got to take me to the park, I've got to walk to the next bench. So we'd walk to the next bench and then come back again, and then the next day I'd say, you've got to take me to the park, I've got to walk to the next bench. So it was every single day, a little bit. So I knew that I was activating what I had with what God had done. And so just whenever I was in trouble, whenever I felt that things weren't going well, because it wasn't a complete straight road, it was still difficult, I could still come back to what does the Word of God say, and He says He's going to continue to keep me and He's going to continue to restore me. And that was the consistent prophetic word that people would say, that I would have full restoration and full healing. And I held on to those prophetic words that I would one day have a scan that would have nothing on it at all. In the September of 2019, so that's still same year, so that was 3 months after having had a stroke and having brain surgery, that my son Noah was going to Japan to be the mascot for Wales, and I'd said I would be there with him. So I'm going to cry on that one. In 2019, that was a huge goal, to be able to take my son to Japan. I'd promised him that was what I was going to do, so I was going to do it. So yeah, it was a big goal to be able to go to Japan and to be able to be well enough to be able to help him. So that's what I did. Fast forward another month, I'm thinking, okay, I need to set another challenge, need to set another target here for me. I'm a very target orientated sort of person, to be able to say, okay, God, I want to be able to do another triathlon. I've done triathlon before, but I want to be able to do another triathlon. So in hope and faith, I booked into the Cardiff Triathlon for the June 2020. And that was in December of 2019. So 6 months, I was saying, okay, God, I believe that you're going to continue to get me fitter and stronger. At that point, I could probably swim 25 meters, maybe 50 meters or so. I could be on a bike a little bit, I could run a little bit. So physically I'd come on a long way, but that was quite a big target to have to make. So I was calling upon God and saying, okay, God, I believe you can do this for me. June 2020, that race was cancelled because of COVID. June 2021, that was cancelled because of COVID. June 2022, I was a lot fitter and stronger. God had worked a lot throughout those last 2 years, and I was actually able to compete in that triathlon, not only just to get to the start line, but to be able to come and finish second in my age group. So that allowed me to be able to say, God's done a huge miracle for me. Coming second in that triathlon meant that I was actually then able to qualify to race for Great Britain, which is a huge thing for me, that I had a secret dream that I wanted to be able to do that, and God had done that for me. Fast forward to 2022, and so I then competed for Great Britain, which is amazing. Physically, I'm doing really well. Still some challenges within my life in terms of cognitive abilities to do things, but God was still improving me. But I still wanted a clear brain scan, so I had another brain scan just as something medically they would do, just keeping a check on me. But I still was present, having this AVM was still shown on this brain MRI scan. So I was saying, God, no, my declaration of faith is that I will have a clear brain scan. So then we're still able to speak to the consultant, and he was saying, okay, we'll do another brain scan. I had more prayer, just to be able to say that, and so it wasn't so much that I needed to have this to say I was able to do things, because I was doing things, but actually I was taking God at His word that He would give me a declaration of complete bill of clear health. In October 2023, I had my final brain scan, and that showed that there was nothing on that at all, and the consultant said, you've been cured, and this has been a complete miracle. Throughout this story, God has been with me every single step of the way. There's been ups and downs, but God's been with me. I've been able to trust in God, and He's really come through.